We're gonna dive into a place that's, a mix of beautiful noise and, let's be honest, occasional chaos, the middle school band room. We're gonna look at what seems like a pretty normal document, a school band handbook, to uncover some really amazing lessons about teamwork, discipline, and what it actually takes to make something great together. So let's just start with this huge question. How do you orchestrate success? And I mean, really think about that. You've got dozens of kids, all with different skill levels, all holding loud instruments, and you have to get them to work together in perfect harmony. That is a massive, massive challenge. Well, for the Jackson Heights Middle School Band, the answer is right there in their code of conduct. The secret is literally in the rule book. And as you're about to see, this is so much more than a list of don'ts. It's a detailed, carefully thought out blueprint for building a high-performing team. So let's start where they do. You gotta build the foundation of order in the room itself. This is part 1, the blueprint for the band room. Right off the bat, the #1 principle is about precision. And the reason they give is so important. It's not just some power trip, it's about safety. When you have a room packed with people and a ton of expensive, fragile equipment, following directions exactly isn't a suggestion, it's a necessity. It basically frames the band room less like a classroom and more like a high-stakes workshop where every move matters. And you see this logic behind every single rule. Each one has a practical, common-sense reason. Stay in your seat isn't about controlling kids, it's about preventing someone from tripping and breaking a bone or a trombone. Don't touch other people's stuff isn't just about being polite. It's about respecting that these are sensitive, fine-tuned machines. The whole system is designed to stamp out chaos before it even starts. And speaking of preventing chaos, you've got the absolute ban on all food and drink. Now, the reasons for this are, well, they're a little gross, but they make perfect sense. It's not just about avoiding sticky keys on a clarinet. The handbook explains that leftover food bits can actually damage the inside of an instrument, it can grow mold, and, get this, it can attract bugs into the instrument. So yeah, that little piece of gum isn't just a distraction. In this room, it's basically a biohazard.
Okay, so once the physical space is safe and orderly, the focus has to shift inward. And that brings us to part 2, focus on the craft. We're moving from the room to the musician's own mind.
The handbook has this one simple rule: be prepared. But it's not just one thing. They break it down into 3 clear actions. First, you gotta have your gear ready to go. Second, you have to have put in the work on your own. You've practiced your part. And third, you have to show up with a mind that is open and ready to learn. It's this beautiful idea that the group's success starts with your individual responsibility. And this gets to a really cool distinction the handbook makes between music and noise. I mean, why would you ban something as harmless as a hat or a hoodie? Well, because making music requires you to constantly be catching visual cues from the conductor and listening to everyone around you. Anything that blocks your vision or your hearing, like your phone or even earbuds, is literally noise that gets in the way of making music. And of course, that kind of focus is just impossible in a negative space. This rule seems basic, right? Just be nice. But in this context, it's actually a performance tool. By banning aggressive or negative talk, you create psychological safety. You're making a space where students feel safe enough to take risks, to mess up, and to really focus on their craft without being afraid of getting put down. All right, so the band has practiced, they are dialed in, and now it's time for the big show. The rules now have to expand from the practice room out into the concert hall. This is part 3. The art of the audience. Now, what's so brilliant here is how the expectations for the students are perfectly mirrored for their families in the crowd. Just look at this. No talking while others are playing. That goes for everybody. Cell phones away for everybody. Even the rule about when to applaud is exactly the same. It creates this shared understanding that the concert is a special space, and everyone there has a job to do to maintain an atmosphere of respect. So that applause rule, why be so specific? Well, the handbook actually teaches you a little music theory. It defines what a musical movement is, a complete section of a larger piece. It explains that clapping between movements is kind of like cheering in the middle of someone's sentence. So by explaining the why, they're not just bossing people around, they're educating the audience and making the whole experience richer for everyone. And this, right here, is where it all clicks into place. The handbook flat out says that these rules aren't just random concert etiquette. They are direct reflections of the school's core character values: respect, caring, and responsibility. This whole thing isn't just about making good music. It's about building good human beings. So, finally, what happens when someone doesn't follow the blueprint? The handbook is incredibly clear about the stakes. This brings us to our last section, Part 4, the price of performance. First, they give you this one critical piece of context. They point out that the band directors are dealing with unusually large classes. That one little detail changes everything, doesn't it? It means that these high standards aren't just a nice idea. They are an absolute necessity for any learning to happen at all in a group that big and that complex. And because those standards are so critical, the consequences for breaking them are predictable, they're clear, and they escalate. It's a ladder. It starts with a simple verbal warning. Then it moves up to a written assignment, then detention, a parent conference, and finally, a formal discipline referral. There are no surprises, which just reinforces how serious this whole thing is. And this all leads to the bottom line, which might just be the most powerful sentence in the whole document. It makes it crystal clear. Being in this band is not a right, it's a privilege. And that privilege is earned by buying into the system through discipline, through respect, and through a real commitment to the team. So that leaves us with this one big final thought. From creating physical and psychological safety to demanding individual prep for group success, this handbook is basically a masterclass in building a high-performing team. And it really